Hello, everybody. I'm Zack Guzman, the founder of Coinage, the first community-owned media outlet in America to pay dividends, and I'm excited to be here because what you just described, I think a lot of people, maybe before they walked in the door, maybe they thought that would be the future, but it's happening now, and it's very exciting to see it happen now, and it's exciting to be here in Korea. Like you said, Korea. I've never been here before, but this is amazing. Thank you very much, Seoul. How are we doing, Seoul? That's pretty good. That's all right. That's all right. SY, I want to talk to you about what you just mentioned. I want to dig into the specifics because what's happening on chain when it comes to IP, a lot of people talk about real world assets. They talk about bonds, they talk about stocks, they talk about things that already can be traded on stock exchanges. What was the light bulb moment for you where you said we have to tokenize IP? What was that moment?
By the way, Zach, I love your energy. You have the evening energy. I think you're in the U.S. time zone. I think the reason is, okay, trading stock on blockchain is exciting, but you can already trade stock. You can already trade bond. You can go to your Charles Schwab or Robinhood. They've done wonders already. It's marginal utility, but the IP, I mean, I don't know. For me, always, you grow up watching films, you grow up watching, playing games, you grow up, reading newspapers or online media. And for me, for some reason, I've been always obsessed with the business model around content. And I really think with AI and with big streaming platforms, that business content model is collapsing in different ways.
Yeah.
And I thought tokenization can really solve the systematic risk, systematic problems. And especially from the last company, just to give you an example, Radish, it was a successful run, but the majority of the money that's being made from users and venture capital financing was being used on marketing. And I was thinking, wow, what if actually the early fans of the IPs who are reading these IPs can actually directly invest, can get a skin in the game, and actually share the upside. And they're the ones who are evangelizing the IP instead of us spending tons of money, right? Tons of money. Like, like how, I'm just giving a politics example. People who crowdfund a politician's campaign, the Donald Trump crowdfunder or Kamala Harris crowdfunder, they're going to be going crazy for marketing the candidate. Can you have the same effect with IP, but actually with skin in the game? So that was how I started thinking about IP, because the last company, I wish I didn't have to spend that money in marketing. So that was a big thing.
Well, I think it's a very important piece of thinking about how these worlds will collide, because everything you just said is exactly what we've done. I don't know how many people, I don't know if I can say Terra in South Korea, but that's where Coinage, we did our first interview with Do Kwon after the Terra collapse, and that's kind of how we made our name. And everyone could mint a Coinage NFT and own all of the IP that we've ever done at Coinage. And so that's part of it and included in what we've done. And it's exactly what you're talking about in terms of bringing together shared passion of people who want to know things, whether it's in music or entertainment, wherever it may be, and actually giving them the upside. And that's very hard to do.
So the first company that I've done, like how you were doing investigative journalism around that kind of incidents, same way, the first company, I was actually crowdfunding and investigative journalism around Rupert Murdoch's phone hacking scandal. But no one had a skin in the game, like you were doing with the NFTs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what's really cool, and you touched on AI, because for me, what I think about what this technology unlocks is converting a passive subscriber. You might watch a YouTube video, you might like it, but converting a passive eyeball into a co-owner unlocks incentives for them to share content, for them to post content, for it to go viral in a way that you couldn't do in Web 2 before. But now I feel like with AI, we're under another evolution where now the ability to create a bunch of content is basically being brought down to a single prompt. It's not too far along where we might see entire movies put together off of one prompt. So how do you think about how AI is going to change the way that if you enable ownership among fans for creators and fans to own things together, spinning those up, if it becomes easier?
So it's a very nuanced question. How does AI affect IP? I think I have a pretty nuanced answer for this, but the first is that there's a lot of debates around how do you compensate inputs into AI models, but it's literally pretty impossible to statistically figure out the impact of one IP or content on the training model. So that's going to be extremely hard, but it's easy to figure out the compensation around outputs or the remixes. So it is very apparent when you see a Studio Ghibli style profile picture just being around everywhere. That is a Studio Ghibli original style, right? But Studio Ghibli original style is not being compensated. So, but it unlocked huge kind of reinvigoration of Studio Ghibli style kind of visual, and it's great for Studio Ghibli. But what's sad also is if someone were to take a step further and actually create incredible Studio Ghibli style Lord of the Rings, Studio Ghibli style Harry Potter, Studio Ghibli style Squid Game, and they're making a 30-minute immersive video, Studio Ghibli should be getting a compensation. And also, so I think what's the world that Story wants to envision in a few years is that why don't we have, it's going to be unstoppable. Humans are so creative. They love getting inspired. They love remixing. So don't stop that behavior. Actually put your licensing and royalty sharing terms around the IP. Open it up.
Yep.
And now, if the entire world becomes an IP Legoland, IP Legos that can be used as ingredients for your creation, now you have the magic wand of AI. You will have a Cambrian explosion of creativity because you can create the best Studio Ghibli style movie in a year. I can watch Squid Game and come up with really, really captivating next spin-off or next sequel for Squid Game, and that's gonna happen. It's gonna be unstoppable in illegal music downloading. Let's actually open it up. Let's regulate it in the light and actually, let people build on top of it.
I know you have to talk a lot about the big names to get people excited, but I wonder if you also think about how this technology will help smaller, independent creators who might not have had their moment yet. Because for me, myself, when I was at CNBC and Yahoo, I talked about doing a crypto show and got laughed out of the room back in 2018. I almost actually got fired for pitching the idea because they're like, crypto's not going to be a thing. But I knew this audience was out there. The idea of crowdfunding to bring people together to enable some of these ideas that can't get made elsewhere, I feel like is an incredible unlock. So, I mean, how do you see it being used by even lesser known creators, content creators who might not have ever even had a shot?
First of all, I do think, an incredible way to get your name known as an independent creator is building on top of mega IPs as well, right? So a lot of the famous singers start by doing cover songs or remixes.
True.
Or dance covers, right? So, and a lot of the games that you see out there start from modding, right? League of Legends, all these things, right? So I don't think, one way to bootstrap your distribution is leverage the distribution of a big IP and make your name yourself from that IP. That's one. Secondly, for independent creators, I think, I almost see that at some point in the future, you will have almost there are people who like to bet on Bitcoin, but people also like to bet on the new altcoins, right?
Sure.
So if its content is tokenized in the right way, you will have also the investors or the potential participants will have the incentive to want to bet on more emerging ones because that has more of the upside. You want to find a hidden gem as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what we've seen as well in tokenizing our outlet in the way that it's encouraged all of that, and we've seen it it grow as well. But you mentioned the idea of Seoul Exchange. I want to talk to you about that because to me it's a huge unlock. Because what good is something if it can't be traded, if you can't unlock that upside? And a liquidity component of this is a huge piece. So talk to me about how important the Seoul Exchange partnership is to have a place where these assets can be traded, where you can bridge the gap between investors and fans who might just appreciate the content, but now you've kind of got both sides of the equation.
The Seoul Exchange partnership is a very important unlock, right? Because it's now primarily a private stock exchange, right? So you can trade the stocks of Upit, which is not public, the stocks of Market Curly, the stocks of many of the iconic Korean companies out there that you cannot access through the public market. But that technology could also be applied to IP, right? And I think when I talk to many content creators, it's incredible that we had Squid Game. It's incredible we had Parasite. But it could have become, I think the creator of a Squid Game could have become a George Lucas or Steven Spielberg if they owned an IP. He could have made Squid Game into a merch franchise, he could gaming franchise, tabletop game, so many expensive possibilities for Squid Game or many of top IP creators in Korea. So, and I think Korea, we love betting on IP companies. Some of the biggest K-pop companies from Hype to SM Entertainment, JYP, is trading almost at a technology multiple because people are so excited by the future of IP. So when you combine that investment fervor and passion in the upside of IP, Koreans and the Korean retail, they love trading on something they can watch every day instead of betting on some renewable battery company that you cannot kind of touch and feel. Betting on content that you can enjoy every day is something that's dear to our heart. So I think, having that legal venue for the first time, being powered by exchange, our technology, and when these IPs come on chain, you're not actually just trading on its upside of that IP off chain. Mm-hmm. You're also betting on the on-chain revenue stream it's going to make from derivative creation as a further cash flow. I think that's very, very exciting. So, no, we're so humbled by the fact that they chose us as a partner when they could have gone to bigger chains like ETH, Solana, or Tron that could power their exchange. And having just one of the two, RWA, licensed exchange, a very exciting thing, especially for the second largest crypto market in the world.
Well, that's why I think we're evolving beyond just meme coins and the idea of hype and the idea of, oh, it's going to go up and that's it. It's like, no, there's a cash flow here. There's something of value here that can be exchanged, which I think is pretty important and why we've worked so hard on the idea of dividends coming from a real business. But you mentioned the IP, and I do need to give it up to Korea because last night there was a presentation about how Korea is now beating the US when it comes to IP that matters, that moves the needle around the globe. As an American visiting, I'm kind of curious actually to poll the audience because I'm curious which one would win. If you would agree, put your hands together. Applause if you think that America still has the lead on entertainment IP around the world. I'm on your turf, SY, so no one thinks that, or there's a delay on the translation. But I'm curious, if you think that's the case, if Korea is going to usurp the US when it comes to this, how big is that partnership around what you're building with Seoul Exchange? Because in that way, it could become the trading capital of culture.
Yeah. So I think there is a huge dislocation in the amount of soft power that Korea has with the IP and IP dominance we have globally, and the capital liquidity environment of Korea. So literally every single film creator and TV creator, they have to rely on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And the biggest content companies in Korea, from CJ to JTBC, Studio Dragon, all the production studios' valuation went down by 80%. So you have to just go to Netflix, and so that's the thing. And you have all these great creators coming from game, everyone, so many creative talents, because people watch Korean content succeeding globally, but that capital formation is there. There's huge location, and they just have to give away their IP. And now Korea is in an interesting situation. We're so successful, but we're also becoming a war for hire for mega studios and mega platforms in the US.
Yeah.
So I think with Seoul Exchange, we want to figure out a way to have a win-win scenario, constructive environment with American platforms or American studios, where we leverage the distribution. The reason why K-pop became what it is because YouTube. The reason why we have the Squid Game is Netflix, and we are thankful for that. We are very happy for that. But at the same time, if you want a sustainable environment, you need these IP holders holding IPs. So we want to figure out a way with Seoul Exchange, giving that liquidity legally through tokenization technology to IP creators, and without fixing their business model. I think finding this structural solution is going to be impossible, and I think this is going to be very important.
Yeah, I had to ask because, as I said, the co-founder of Netflix is one of our backers in what we're doing, and so tokenizing IP, I think, is a global game now, and it's awesome to see it happen on Story. To wrap up, one of the questions too that kind of bridges this gap is obviously there is now even a Story DAT as well. And we've kind of overlooked the token of IP powering all this. Right now, it's on a tear, I gotta say, as well. The last month's been very strong. When you talk about that and what's to come on Story, bring it home for us as we wrap up. The idea of how the token and Story is powering all of this and kind of what you expect to see change. You walked through it a little bit, but how do we get to that $80 billion opportunity powered by IP?
The IP, so I think what we need to do is a few things. First of all, it's a very long game.
Yep.
And IP is not just entertainment, it's real world data. There's so many different types of IP, it's an $80 trillion asset class. It's very, very massive. So what we are focused on, we have about 100 plus apps now building on top of Story. So we are finding the best partner. So, I think that we have the Versailles founder here for gaming. We have Aria founder who's focusing on music tokenization. We have the Seoul Exchange who's focusing on RWAs. We have Poseidon, which we incubated, but we knew we were not the experts on real world data. So we brought the head of robotics labs at UT Austin, who's a very, very deep researcher in the field of data and data dividends, right? So it's about, I think, partnering with the best founders who are experts in the areas. I'm never going to match the expertise of David Kostner, who's building Ari on top of Story with their music IP experience. I'm never going to match the experience of Sandeep, who has been working on robotics and data dividends and data collection for the last 15 years. So what Story is about is we cannot do things alone. We're going to back founders and help the founders deeply integrate with builders who have the best shot and we're the best experts. And we're not going to pray and spray. When we see a great app, we double down. We want to show success cases. And some of these also companies will also list their tokens on exchanges and actually get their own financing. So that's how Solana worked. If you look at top 100 token, there's several platforms and tokens from Solana. We want to have several kind of projects at that top 100 chart coming from the Story ecosystem and building and actually getting their own capital to actually build this vision. Yeah.
Well, it's been awesome to watch, and as we wrap up here, I just want to thank you again for walking us through it, and congrats, because I think there is so much of a need for this right now in a world where creators are seeing all of their content and everything else get sucked into the AI machine. Ownership and enabling that right now in 2025 is so incredibly important. But thank you so much, S.Y. Lee, founder of Story. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.